I hope everybody's having a great day. There's a spotlight of sunshine on me. Maybe it's a sign that, it's a spotlight on me. But so I was meditating this morning and kind of just thinking about what can I give of value today. And I wasn't planning to speak today, but it happened, and I'm grateful that it happened. And my thoughts came to essentially my life, right? And I think every single one of us will be able to relate to some of the things I'm about to say today. I was, when I'll tell a little bit about my story, so we're not complete strangers. So I found network marketing at the age of 16 years old. And at the age of 16, my mother and my father, when they were in their house, I just got out of school. I came into inside the house, and there was a lady drawing circles. There was no technology like that back then. It was like, just like, you guys, there was a whiteboard, and you drew circles in the whiteboard. And that's how I saw the plan. That's how the business plan. And it made so much sense to me that I told my parents right then. I was like, "Hey, this is what I want to do, and I want to quit school." And you can imagine that conversation, how it went, right? But I was already having a lot of issues in schools. I was constantly in fights. It was a very tough school to be a part of, and so essentially, my parents signed off, and they signed me out of school. And I was, and that was me talking about my selling skills, right? to talk to you, get your parents to sign you out of school. So I started pretty much working immediately. I started working in network marketing. I got myself a job as well. So we were. I started my adulthood already at 16, 17 years old. Already started, but I grew up really fast because I had a girlfriend. And by the time I was 17, I had my first baby with my girlfriend, and today my daughter, she is 26 years old. She's amazing, by the way. She's also engaged. She lives like 5 minutes from me. One of my best friends ever. Funny, and you guys get to meet her one day, I'm sure. But you can imagine having a kid at 17. Some of you might even experience that. I don't know. But being a young father at 17, I had to grow up really, really, really fast, and I had to make money fast as well. So now I'm in this position, right, where I'm a young father. I'm a young husband as well, because we got married, and we were trying to do the best that we could, but we were young too, and we were naive, and at the same time there was so much that was so much against us, you would say. And I remember I was like, okay, I need to get into I need to make some money. I need to make some money fast. I need to make income. And income. Money was always stressful in those days. It was a big stress in my life, where money was going to come from, and being a father. And then 2 years later, at the age of 19, I have another baby. So now I have two, and she's 24, right? 26, 24, 2 years apart. And she's also amazing. She lives in Dallas, and her name is Gigi, and she's just she's my little Gigi. But now really, things are tight, and things are rough. So I go into the bar industry, and because if you go into the industry, in the serving industry or waiting industry, what ends up happening, or bar industry, there's cash, right? And there's cash every day that you take home. So I found it to be very useful, and that led me into the club industry as well. And for a decade, that was my crowd. That's what I did. I was in the bar and club industry for a decade, and I met Miles Staller. Miles Staller was a promoter for clubs before when I first met him. So we we got along very well. But this was where I during this whole time I was participating within network marketing. I was reading books. I was showing up to events, and it was in the club industry made it very easy for me to have some level of flexibility with my income. But if you take a weekend off, right, that's where the biggest money was. You make your money on the weekends the majority of the time, especially in the club industry. So here I am, a decade passes by, and there's certain opportunity that comes my way, and it was the opportunity was so obvious for me that this is what I was looking for. This was what everything, all my years of wanting, all my desires, all my preparation had led me to this opportunity. But I had an identity, if you will, or a reinforced paradigm of who I was, what I was meant to do, and what was easy for me. There was a paradigm there that was reinforced for me, and so I had to learn how to reinvent myself. And so, I believe that this is one of the most powerful things that you can learn personally and that you can do in your life is to reinvent yourself at any given moment. I'm no expert, by the way, by any means. I'm not an expert on reinventing yourself or creating this new life by any means. But I will tell you, I will give you some, maybe what I can talk about right now can give you some clues on what you can do for yourself in the area, because it's not what you acquire. Success is not something you achieve. Success is something you become. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. So the first thing that I realized when I saw this, and I remember, I remember exactly where I was, because what ended up happening, you heard some of my story, that I was in a place where I ended up in a wheelchair. I broke an ankle, and then I broke like 3 of my toes, so I broke my feet essentially, and I was in a wheelchair, and I was not able to tend to. At the time, I was working at the nightclub industry at night, and I had a Zumba studio that I worked in the day. So I was in the fitness studio. I was working like a dog in order for me to make ends meet, and to be able to live. And what ended up happening was, I break my legs. I'm not able to tend to I'm definitely not able to work at the nightclub. I was definitely not able to do Zumba, so I fall behind on the things on my bills. And I was 4 months behind on my car payment, 4 months behind on my house. I was hiding my car in my next door neighbor's garage because it got in repo status. My landlord was calling me, "Yo, man, you told me the check was in the mail," because that was like 15 years ago. So the check is in the mail, So this is where I was, and I remember the first thing that I did after I was able to walk again, I went back to the nightclub, and a friend of mine, she came there, and the nightclub, and she was like, "David, what are you doing back here?" She asked me, and I remember that question. It hit like a ton of bricks when she asked me that. It was a moment where I was like, "Oh man," and she was like, "I said, you don't belong here. You were gone for 4 months. I understand you had your broken feet, but you don't belong here. There's something better for you out there. You don't belong here in a nightclub." I remember after I spoke to her, it was the middle of the shift. I went to my locker, packed everything, and I told my boss, "Hey, I'm leaving. maybe I'll be back, maybe I won't. I don't know. I'll text you. And I left in the middle of the shift, and I got home, and I was like thinking to myself, there's something I want to change. And so the first thing that I realized in my life is, number one, is that this is why I tell people every breakthrough in life was first preceded by a breakdown. I broke my legs. My body was physically broken, not just meant. But afterwards, I my mind was like it shattered. I couldn't go back to the nightclub. It was not possible for me. There's something inside of me that just it was completely shattered. So I broke that whole identity. And what ends up happening is now the first thing I realized is that you got to have awareness. That's number one. You cannot change what you cannot see. And Alcoholic Anonymous, again, I've shared this before. It's probably the most successful organization in creating change in people's lives. Everybody knows step number one. What is it that made you have a problem, right? In other words, you got to be aware that there's something you want to change. Every transformation begins with honest awareness. There's something inside of you that you want to change. You cannot change patterns while pretending it does not exist. It's not possible. You cannot improve what you refuse to examine, and you cannot reinvent a vision of yourself if you're still defending your old self. So that had to happen. So I had to ask myself questions like, where am I stuck? What patterns am I repeating in my life? What truths am I avoiding about what I want to accomplish in my life? What is it that I want to change? What must stop? What must I stop tolerating in order for me to move forward into the next phase of my life? And I want to tell you that this awareness was not a judgment of myself. It was turning a light into my shadow, into what I needed to really see. So I realized that I could not change what I was not unwilling to confront. So I needed that lady that said that to me. I needed that, and I needed that confrontation for him to confront me that I'm willing to change something in my life. And so we did, and the story goes that where the first thing that I realized is, okay, I have an opportunity, in my friend. Just a week and a half ago, an opportunity came into my lap. I have this skill sets of what I felt, at least I had, that I knew what not to do. And more importantly, I knew what not to do. Does that make sense? I realized that, and sometimes when you want to create change in your life, it's sometimes more important to know the mistakes that you could make and don't make those mistakes. Does that make sense? Because momentum comes from a place of not stopping. So if let's say I'm running, I had this old bike. I once had a whole bike that every 5 minutes, the chain used to fall off. So I riding my bike, the chain fall off. I don't know. And you know how annoying it is because you keep pedaling, you hurt yourself usually, So it was, I never built that momentum in the bike. It was like chain fell off. That's why you have to understand what you're willing. You have to be willing to confront those things that perhaps are old paradigms of yourself and old beliefs. And I was ready. So the first thing that I realized for myself is that I realized that, hey, I am not a victim of my circumstances. And there's a clear distinction of, after you're aware of things you want to change, and then you start changing your paradigm and saying, I'm not a victim, I'm an owner. I'm an owner of my choices. And you start taking back your power. And I started asking questions like, why I stopped asking questions. Sorry, I stopped asking questions like, why is this happening to me? Who is responsible for this? Or why is someone helping me? And I started asking questions like, what can I learn from this? What can I control? What's my next move? What's my next thing that I have to take on? And I really started taking ownership of the things that I could do. And the things that I could control was was okay. I have an opportunity in front of me. I know what not to do. I know what mistakes not to make. I know that when I if that I, to reach that I have to create momentum, and to create momentum in this business, I have to reach out to a lot of people in a short amount of time. Whether I do it with my list or someone's list, I have to create momentum like this way. I know that if I don't launch my new affiliates when they get started, they're within a 48-hour span, their motivation, enthusiasm will start lowering down, and fear will start racing more and more and more. I not know these things. I know this is gonna happen. So that's a mistake I will make. And I started focusing on the things that I did. So I so I and so I started building. I started building, and results started coming, but they were not coming without challenges. And again, and it's all I've learned that reframing your challenges is probably one of my biggest strengths. In fact, I got known for that, and people started telling me, "What, David? Do you ever see a problem? David, do you ever see? You're too positive." Started hearing all you think is about solutions. And people were literally telling me, I was too positive. I was like, hey, because I didn't see challenges. I saw a challenge are the weights we train with. That's how I get better. Nobody builds physically strength without resistance. Why would emotional strength, courage, discipline, or leadership be any different? If that's the case, rejection is a weight, disappointment is a weight, pressure is a weight, a setback is a weight that you're utilizing in order for you to get stronger. So stop. You got to stop asking life. Got to stop asking life to stop giving you resistance. Now, there's a difference between life giving you resistance and you resisting life. By the way, that's not what I'm talking about, right? You don't resist the resistance, right? I don't resist the if I yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you, Brooke. Big difference. Yes. There's a difference between that, okay? So you become stronger by accepting the resistance of life, and just pushing forward. And so it's the greatest responsibility that one can take, is to say that I can choose to look at this from a perspective and a framework that inspires me, and that is able to move me forward to take the next step. I was talking to a friend just yesterday, a few couple of days ago, and I need to call him actually again. But he was telling me, man, I just finalized my divorce. Very, very, very challenging to go through a divorce, and yet he goes, man, I'm depressed. I don't know what to do. When we were, and some of the things that I was telling him was exactly this. It's like, man, hey, man, I understand that you're processing this, right? And this is good. You got to process this completely. And in whatever phase you're at, don't resist it and process it. But know that this right here, and it sounds cliche, but this is something that is training you to become emotionally stronger, to become a person. Don't and he says something about, man, I'm just gonna he says something about I'm just gonna get better and do it just to get back at her. I say I like the motivation of getting better, but don't do anything just to get back at anyone. Don't apply that energy to do that. I mean, it's like there's it just makes no sense. The moment you're getting better already, you corrupt things. You're corrupting it, right? If you're getting better just to get back at someone is I mean, I like the motivation, but don't let's not corrupt it with that type of with that, because you're already you're the motivation is there. So and so we started talking. I'm gonna call him back right now. Actually, I'm gonna call him today. Thanks for reminding me, by the way, guys. Thank you, appreciate that. I'm gonna call him today. We got some more things to talk about, but we started kind of just talking about these things about reframing your life in order for you to be able to take the next step. And that's all that I do. It's not that I'm too positive. I look at things the way they are. I see if I see a problem, I see a problem. But how can I reframe this problem so I can take the next step and take full ownership and responsibility? Because I understand something that I understood, especially entering the business of network marketing, is that the yes lives within the no. It is meaning that I have to go through no's in order for me to get to the yes. Leaders understand this, by the way. Every rejection just gives you information. Maybe your message needs to be improved. Maybe your timing is wrong. Maybe you just need to develop more skills, or maybe you're simply you're talking to the wrong person. I don't know any of those situations. It was always the case for me as well, and I but I realized when I was going out there, I was very excited. I was always very excited about the opportunity. This is why I tell you, man, sometimes ignorance on ice is better than intelligence on ignorance on fire is better than intelligence on ice, right? Sometimes that's the case. It's better just to be excited about what you're doing, the life you're living, the walk, the purpose you're living, and your life, the message that you're bringing with your life. Something is exciting about that. There's people that I know that are just contagious, right? In this Zoom, right? V. Shaw is one of the most contagious individuals I've ever met. He's amazing. But I tell you that right there, and specifically, you were not always gonna get. You don't always get a yes. The yes lives within the no, and individuals that learn this build businesses at a grand scale. I saw a post. I wonder if I can share this with you. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I thought it was really, really cool. Let me see. Video selfies. Where are the screenshots at? Cinematic selfies. No, that's not it. If I'm gonna find it in the next 30 seconds, I'm gonna let it go. So I saw this. Just these saying about some entrepreneurs that were. Oh, here it is. Oh, this is beautiful. Check this out. This is great. Okay, so Pedro Pascal, at the age of 39, what's this one? Yeah, Pedro Pascal, actor, right? You guys know Pedro Pascal? At the age of 38, Pedro was still fighting for a big break, right? Still nothing. At 39, Game of Thrones came to his life, and he became the unknown today. Pedro came out in the Gru, the what's it called, the Mandalorian, and so many other great movies. Yeah, thank you. We got some Star Wars fans here. Colonel Sanders, we all know the story. 64 years old, was pretty much broke, and hey, there's the Colonel Sanders is saying that he went to go sell his chicken recipe, and he got over 1,000 no's. Over 1,000 restaurants told him no. By the age of 65, he started his first KFC restaurant. Bob, There's an actor named Bob Odenkirk, was still known mainly as a comedy writer. By the age of 52, Better Call Saul made him a global TV icon. I wish you had the picture, but I can't show you because it's in my phone. Okay, you got J.K. Rowling was a single mother writing Harry Potter on welfare by the age of 29. Okay, by the age of 31, Harry Potter published, best-selling author. How many? How you have Morgan Freeman? Anybody loves Morgan? I love Morgan. Age of 49, he was not a known well actor. Age of 50, he got his big break in Street Smarts, earned his first Oscar nomination. 49 to 50, look at that. Stan Lee was ready to quit the comic book business. Oh, I'm so happy he didn't quit the comic book business. Stan Lee, right? Anybody know Stan Lee? You know what I'm talking about. You know, Marvel. Anybody loves the Marvel movies? Yeah, can you imagine not having the Marvel movies? Well, 37, he almost quit. 38, he created a Fantastic Four and launched the Marvel era. Steve Carell was still a supporting comedian actor at 42. At 43, he did a 40-year-old virgin, and today we know Steve Carell for what he is, right? 38, King Jung was still a doctor and a stand-up comedian. King Jung is the guy that did the little Asian guy with a hangover, the funny guy. You guys seen The Hangover, right? You know, he comes out naked out of the trunk and he starts beating up people with a. That's him. Well, at 38 he was a doctor and he was a stand-up comedian. At 39 he did The Hangover. His big break came out at 39. At 49, Kei Huio was still auditioning after decades away from Hollywood. Okay. Kei Huio was the kid that did the movie. He came out in the movie, The Goonies, the little Asian kid. Remember the Asian kid in the Goonies? I love the Goonies. Anybody watch the Goonies? Anybody knows the 80s, right? 80s, the Goonies. Well, yeah, the Indiana Jones as well. Well, he fell off of being an actor for a long time, for decades. And then the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once at 51, it happened. And by the way, Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great movie. Won him an Oscar. Samuel L. Jackson still hadn't landed a breakthrough role at 45. At 45 years old, he was still doing little side hustles and part-time jobs and part-time actor. At 45. At 46, he landed Pulp Fiction. And today, we know Samuel L. Jackson for who he is. Jennifer Coolidge was still just a comedian at the age of 59. And was, she is Stifler's mom. Okay? You guys know who Jennifer Coolidge is. Stifler's mom. Some of you know my references, right? Well, at 61 is when she landed her big break, which was called White Lotus, turned her into an Emmy-winning star. Vera Wang wasn't a fashion designer yet at 39. At 40, she refined the bridal industry, by the way. She has the most expensive, Vera Wang has the most expensive designer for the wedding industry. At the age of 51, Ray Kroc was a struggling milkshake machine salesman. By the age of 52, he began building an empire called McDonald's. Age 39, Henry Ford had already failed in business twice, bankrupting 2 companies. Age of 40, he founded Ford Motor Company. The yes lives within the no's. And so the story goes on and on and on, okay? It just goes on and on. Here's I want to finish, but I want to tell you this. Something else that I learned as I was taking one step after another. Here's what I realized, and I realized about all these people too, is that if you cannot beat fear, do a scare. Does that make sense? If you can't beat fear, do a scare. Stop waiting to feel confidence. Confidence is usually a result of action, not the requirement of it. I love what Emerson said. Emerson is credited for saying, "Do the thing, and you'll have the power." Do the thing, and you have it. No, you do not receive the power and then act. You act, and then you receive the power. Motion creates emotion. Action precedes feeling. Courage is not the absence of fear, but is refusing to let fear make stopping you from making a decision to move forward. So it's something that I've learned that has helped me. It's like if I feel something that I'm scared of, is I almost have to do it at that point. I'm like, oh God, I'm scared. Now really have to do it. Now that's me at this point. Obviously, I'm not foolish, right? I don't do I'm not gonna risk my life and do that. But if there's something there that I'm scared of, and I'm gonna go and do it. I'm gonna go push it. If there's somebody out there that you need to talk to, but you're scared to talk to, you have to take action. Maybe in today you can prepare the best way, right? You can prepare and say, hey, listen, I need to talk to. I'm gonna use V Shaw because he's right here. I say I have an entrepreneur named V Shaw, very successful. I know him for 10 years. How do I approach him about my vital health business? What can I tell? And feed your AI GPT with it. I don't know. Do something, but prepare yourself and go talk to your mentor and take action. And let's go ahead and talk to that prospect you're scared. Here's the last one I want to give you. So I didn't want to take more than 30 minutes, but here we are. Is that you have to fight against oxidation. Something in my life is that I realized that whatever you don't use, you lose. It's called the law of use. If I don't practice, if I don't speak Spanish, I'll lose my Spanish. If you play piano, you don't practice the piano, you lose your piano abilities. If you whatever if you don't sharpen the saw will get rust. Oxidation will always set in. Weeds will always take over the garden. You have to always be in that mindset that, hey, there's no such thing as standing still. You don't drift up a mountain. You drift down the mountain. So you got to always fight against oxidation within your mindset, within your muscles, within your relationships, within your visions, within your beliefs, within your skills. You have to fight oxidation and constantly be in that mindset that I'm going to get better, and I have to get better, and I have to get sharpen my saw and always be improving in the area of my life that I don't want to oxidate in, because knowledge, awareness, discipline, inspiration all requires maintenance. Everything requires maintenance. That's why calls like this is so important. This is a maintenance call. AM Power is a maintenance call. It's for you to maintain, okay? So it's for you to feed your mind, protect your energy, upgrading your skills, you examining your habits, all these things that we talk about, reconnecting back to the vision. All this has to do with sharpening your saw, and AM Power is part of it. But you have to do this also consciously and be aware of the things that you need to accomplish. Be aware that these things, that this is happening right now in your life. Okay, so reinventing yourself. In closing, I would tell you that reinventing yourself begins with you stop negotiating with the vision of yourself that you're trying to create, and you're don't negotiate with that vision. Whatever it is. Create that vision, and you can pass your current limitations by maybe some of these ideas will help you. I know that in my life, examining my life, they have helped me. I'm aware. I became aware of the things I wanted to change. I took ownership in the fact that the things that I can control. I use I use the resistance of life in order for me to become stronger. But I didn't resist life. I used the resistance of life in order for me to become stronger. Big key distinction. You know, I was able to walk through the no's. The more no's I got, I knew I was getting closer to the yes. I acted while I was still afraid. You know, I wanted to reach out to some people. I was afraid of reaching out. I still did it. And I'm constantly keep upgrading myself. I was constantly always working on myself to become better and better at the things. You so so these things is personally what I use to reinvent myself from a someone who was always broke, always working to maintain a life that it was kind of life of mediocrity, to be honest. I guess I wasn't showing up on my best. To today, you know, I'm not saying that I'm at a great level right now. You know, I don't think that, because I don't think that about myself. But I will say that I'm in a place that I can, looking back, I can truly see the dots that have connected together, and I can see that anybody can do this. There's nobody in this Zoom that cannot reach a diamond, double diamond, you know, quadruple diamond, and all the other things that you want to accomplish within Vital Health. It's accomplishable for everybody. Everybody in this Zoom. I mean it. I truly mean it, and that feels good. I've been in opportunities before where people ask me, David, can I do this? And I'm like, I don't think so. Inside my heart, I knew you couldn't do it. But I don't feel like that here. I truly feel that you can make it here within Vital Health, create a significant impact and a significant difference in your life and in the life of so many people. Guys, you do not reinvent yourself by announcing who you're going to become to people. You reinvent yourself through a decision you make when nobody's watching. That decision, when I was in my locker and I looked at my locker, and I looked at my locker for like 10 minutes, and then I packed my stuff and I walked. Thinking back now, by the way, thinking back now, that was a decision that I made. I was like, that's it, I'm out. Let's go. A new life begins today. And you can make that decision anytime you want, my friends. Thank you very much. I love every single one of you. I can't wait to see you guys in the next event, an Orlando event. It's going to be an incredible event. Let's get everybody to Orlando. If you haven't gotten your ticket, please get your ticket. This is gonna be a life-changing event for every single one of you in the Orlando event that we're gonna have in October 16 to the 18th. We're gonna have that incredible event in Orlando that is gonna change lives, and it's gonna be something special.